They're not all the same. Some want your attention. Others want you gone. But the worst ones, they want something else entirely. What you're about to hear might sound like fiction, but these entities have been documented across cultures for centuries. People who've encountered them rarely come forward. Some can't. And after today, you'll understand why. We're diving into the 5 most dangerous ghost entities known to paranormal researchers. The ones that don't just scare you, they can hurt you. And I'm not talking about a scratch or a bruise. I'm talking about psychological torment, possession, and worse. Let's start with number 5. You've seen them. Maybe just out of the corner of your eye. A dark silhouette that vanishes when you turn to look. Most people write it off as their imagination. A trick of the light. But what if it's not? Shadow people aren't your typical ghosts. They appear as completely dark, human-shaped figures. No features. No face. Just darkness deeper than the darkest shadow. But here's where it gets disturbing. Unlike most spirits that seem lost or confused, shadow people watch with purpose. They observe. They study. People who report multiple encounters say these entities grow bolder over time, moving closer with each appearance. Paranormal researcher Sarah Lockwood spent 3 years documenting shadow people encounters across 7 countries. Her findings? These entities feed on fear. The more terrified you become, the stronger they get. In extreme cases, witnesses report feeling physically drained after encounters, suffering from exhaustion, nightmares, and even unexplained illnesses. What makes them truly dangerous is their ability to affect your mind. People who've had prolonged exposure report intrusive thoughts, deepening depression, and overwhelming feelings of dread that don't go away when the entity does. If you encounter one, don't show fear. Don't acknowledge it. And whatever you do, don't try to communicate with it. Because once you invite a shadow person into your life, getting rid of it becomes nearly impossible. Number 4 is rarer but far more aggressive. The entity known as the Red Widow has been documented in Eastern European countries since the 1800s, but reports have spread worldwide in recent decades. Unlike most apparitions that appear misty or transparent, witnesses describe the Red Widow as unnervingly solid. She typically appears as a woman in a red dress or shroud, with long black hair that seems to move independently, as if underwater. What makes the Red Widow particularly dangerous is her violent nature. While most spirits might move objects or create cold spots, this entity has been linked to direct physical attacks. Victims report being scratched, pushed downstairs, or held down while sleeping. The pattern is always the same. It starts with a scent, something like rotting flowers or copper. Then comes a feeling of being watched. Those who've survived encounters say she targets people experiencing grief or emotional vulnerability. Parapsychologist Dr. Anton Meyer has theorized that the Red Widow was once human but transformed into something else through extreme trauma and rage. What we're dealing with isn't just a ghost, he wrote in his controversial 2018 paper. It's a spirit that has learned to channel negative emotions into physical force. If you smell unexplained floral scents followed by copper, leave the area immediately. Don't return alone. Our number 3 entity is perhaps the most insidious. The mimic doesn't rely on fear or violence. It uses trust. These entities earn their name by impersonating people you know, usually loved ones. Witnesses report seeing or hearing family members call to them, only to discover later that person wasn't there. The most disturbing cases involve people who followed what they thought was a friend or family member, only to be led into dangerous situations. What makes mimics truly terrifying is their patience. They don't attack immediately. They spend weeks or even months establishing trust. They appear as glimpses of familiar people just out of view. A voice calling your name that sounds exactly like your mother or child. They learn your relationships and exploit them. Folklore expert Dr. Elena Santos has collected over 300 mimic encounter stories spanning 6 continents. The commonality? They want to separate you from others, she explains. Isolation makes you vulnerable. The danger escalates when people begin responding to these entities, creating a connection that strengthens the mimic's influence. In advanced stages, witnesses report being unable to distinguish between the entity and the real person it's impersonating. Protection comes from verification. If you see someone acting strangely or calling you from another room, always check before responding. Because once a mimic knows you trust it, it begins to show its true nature. Number 2 on our list is an entity so rarely discussed that many paranormal researchers deny its existence. Those who've encountered it call it the Hollow Walker. Unlike most ghosts that haunt specific locations, the Hollow Walker hunts. It chooses its targets carefully, typically individuals who have meddled with occult practices or disturbed ancient sites. Witnesses describe it as a tall, emaciated figure with disproportionately long limbs and a face that seems smeared or blurred. It moves with an unnatural gait, jerky yet fluid, like something trying to remember how humans walk. The real danger comes from its influence on reality itself. Around a Hollow Walker, physics begins to break down. Objects fall upward. Reflections move independently of their owners. Time stretches and contracts. These reality distortions gradually affect the mental state of anyone nearby, creating confusion and disorientation that makes escape difficult. Former skeptic and physicist Dr. James Hirsch documented his own encounter in 2019 before his disappearance 3 months later. His final notes described a thinning of the walls between dimensions in the entity's presence. Those who survive encounters report the same warning. The Hollow Walker doesn't just want to frighten, it wants to collect. People followed by this entity frequently disappear, leaving behind rooms with furniture arranged in impossible configurations. There is no known way to banish a Hollow Walker once it has chosen you. The only protection is prevention. Avoid tampering with ritual sites and never, ever respond if you hear rhythmic knocking in sets of 4. And finally, we reach the most dangerous entity known to paranormal researchers. So dangerous that many won't even speak its proper name, referring to it only as the Soul Eater. This entity doesn't look frightening at first. Witnesses describe a surprisingly ordinary figure, often appearing as an elderly person with kind eyes. Some even report feeling an initial sense of comfort in its presence. That comfort is its weapon. The Soul Eater feeds on human essence, not just emotional energy like some spirits, but something deeper. Something permanent. Encounters leave victims changed in fundamental ways. They retain their memories and personalities, but people close to them report something vital missing afterward, a spark or light gone from their eyes. In paranormal circles, these victims are known as the Hollowed. They often exhibit strange behavior, staring at nothing for hours, speaking in circular logic, or becoming obsessed with finding others to introduce to their special friend. Historic records suggest this entity has existed for thousands of years, appearing in ancient texts from cultures worldwide, always with warnings about inviting strangers into your home at night. What makes the Soul Eater truly terrifying isn't its appearance but its intelligence. It plans. It persuades. It understands human psychology and exploits our natural desire to help others in distress. The only documented protection is skepticism. Question any sudden inexplicable urge to invite strangers into your personal space, especially during the hours between 2 and 4 a.m., what paranormal researchers call the dead time when barriers between worlds are thinnest. So why are we telling you this? Because knowledge is protection. These entities thrive in ignorance. They count on you dismissing that shadow, following that familiar voice, or helping that kind stranger without question. But there's something else you should know. Something most researchers won't talk about. These 5 entities share a disturbing connection that was only discovered recently. A pattern hidden in their appearances that suggests they might not be separate beings at all, but different aspects of something much larger. Something watching from beyond the veil. And the strangest part? Reports of all 5 entities have increased dramatically in the past 6 months, with clusters forming around certain locations worldwide. Locations that align perfectly with. Well, that's a story for another time. Sleep well tonight. And remember, if you feel something watching you from the dark corners of your room, don't look directly at it. Some things become stronger once you acknowledge their presence.